Welcome to this week's edition of Church Chat. We are continuing our study of pivotal moments in the Bible, and you may be wondering, why are we doing this? Well, through COVID and ice and snow, I realized that one of the things that I struggled with early on in my career was sort of making sense, particularly of the Old Testament, about how it ebbed and flowed and what was important and why the books were laid out in the way they were, and tried to make sense of it. And so I hope by doing these pivotal moments that it will highlight the reason why it's laid out and highlight what's important to pay attention to as the story progresses. And so if you've been watching these, 2 weeks ago we were in Genesis, and Adam and Eve had the choice of eating the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil or not, and they did, of course, and things changed. And then last week we looked at Abraham and the promise that was made to him and how things changed after that. He went from his home country of Haran and then made the journey to Canaan and began following the Lord. Today, I'm taking us still in Genesis, but to Abraham's descendant, his grandson, Jacob. And you'll recall the story of Joseph and how he was somewhat arrogant with his fancy coat of many colors. He had dreams and visions, and his brothers got jealous and eventually threw him in a cistern, in a pit, and then sold him into slavery, and he ended up in Egypt. Because of the drought, and because he was able to interpret dreams, Joseph was the one to guide them through all that. Well, the famine, the drought, was not just in Egypt, it was all across the Middle East. And Jacob and his other sons were experiencing the same drought, and so they were short of water, short of food for their animals, and they were looking for something to keep them alive, and so they made the journey to Egypt, and that's where they run back into Joseph. So what I'm going to read for you is from Genesis chapter 46, and this is where the sons go back, tell Jacob that Joseph is still alive, and they try to convince him to come back or to come down to Egypt to see Joseph and to receive grain and water and all the other things that they can get there. And so this is starts off with Israel, Jacob's other name, but he talks to God, and God tells him the plan to go to Egypt, and then eventually they will leave. So that's my pivotal moment for this week. Chapter 46 of Genesis. And Israel, Jacob, journeyed onward with all that was his. And he came to Beersheba, very important sacrificial site of that day. And he offered sacrifices to God of his father, Isaac. Isaac was Jacob's father. And God said to Israel, through visions of the night, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, here I am. And he said, I am the God of your father. Fear not to go down to Egypt, for a great nation I will make you there. I myself will go down with you to Egypt, and I myself will surely bring you back up as well. And Joseph shall lay his hands on your eyes. That means his son will be there when he dies. And Jacob arose from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel conveyed Jacob, their father, and their little ones and their wives in the wagons Pharaoh had sent to convey him. And they took their cattle and their substance that they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and they came to Egypt. Jacob and all his seed with him, his sons and the sons of his sons with him, his daughters, and the daughters of his sons, and all his seed he brought with him to Egypt. So that is my pivotal moment when they go from living in Cana to making the journey down to Egypt. And then, of course, next week, you can imagine our next pivotal moment is when they are in Egypt and they need to be delivered because 400 years passes and they're no longer welcomed into the land, but instead they are enslaved. So this week is that journey from Cana to Egypt, and then we'll catch up with Moses next week. So I hope you are well. Hope you are dodging the ice and snow. Hope you are not contracting the coronavirus. And we'll see you next time on Church Chat.